So we're going to get started today, and I really want to thank you all for joining us. And again, Read Theory is putting on this webinar because we have just had an outpouring of calls for resources from our teachers. So joining us today, and he's going to be popping up on the screen now, is Matthew Spencer. Matthew Spencer is a national board certified teacher. He's been teaching for over 10 years, high school English. And he is joining us today because he uses technology in traditional times in his classroom. And he's also an authority on how to make the most of technology in these new times that we are in. Matthew teaches in a Title I school. And so he is very well suited to speak to the issues of access and equity that I know a lot of teachers have right now. A lot of these concerns about how do I effectively use technology when technology is not a guarantee with my students. So that all said, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for putting this on. We're all excited to hear what you have to say, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Can everyone hear me? Yeah?
I can hear you. We've got the yes.
Sean, thank you so much. Thank you to Read Theory. I can't believe I'm doing this. I am no authority at all, but true. But I'm going to do the best I can here. I've talking about engagement. The title of this talk, Zoom is not enough. Engagement in remote teaching. And I've got a little slideshow here for you to take us through the presentation. I'm going to put that up. I hope you can see that now. So engagement. One thing that you can do, and we'll just start right off with an icebreaker. In your classroom, you probably use icebreakers. You could still do icebreakers virtually. I've got 3 versions of icebreakers here to show you. We're maybe going to do one of them. I've adapted them from a little pamphlet that was recently published. There's the information about that pamphlet at the end of this presentation. And icebreakers are great to get your students engaged, connecting, talking with each other, sharing with you, the teacher. And you can do this virtually. You could do it in a video conference like this is going to be, or you can do it in an asynchronous way. This one I thought was just really cool. It may not actually be that applicable for your students because all your students are probably going to be in the same general geographical location as you. But for an audience like this, people may be all over the map. This is that website Poll Everywhere. You probably have used it or heard of it. If you haven't, it's a wonderful, easy to use, engaging resource. And you can share your stuff through a text message. I'm going to show you I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see what this looks like. Give me just one moment. I should have done this already. Okay. Okay, here it is. So this is the Poll Everywhere poll. It's a sort of prefabricated poll. And if you set it up, you just click activate, and then your students can text in and just click on a spot on the map, and you'll see it populate with where people are. If you're doing something where people are really remotely scattered, this is really cool. So come back to my presentation here. The next one I want to show you is called Good Things. I wonder how many of you teach in a school that uses Capturing Kids' Hearts, a sort of behavior management system. My school uses that, and we always start class with Good Things. It's a great way of getting students connecting and building community. You can still do this virtually. You could do this online, and there are lots of ways that you can do it. But I thought this was really cool. I discovered this sort of randomizing website called random.org, and they have again, prefabricated little thing you can choose. You can have students roll a die or roll dice and get different numbers, and then it can give you different things that you can do. So I'll show you that right now. You may want to try this out, but you can click just see this random.org. You got this dice roller. You can set it up for multiple. If you wanted 2 dice, 3 dice, 4 dice, but you just click roll again. And look, I've rolled a 1. So now, if I go back to my, oh, that's the wrong thing. Forgive me. If I rolled a 1, I'm supposed to share a personal success. If I rolled a 2, share something you're grateful for. Roll a 3, something cool that you've learned. Roll a 4, something that gave you joy, etc. You can set it up however you want. And then I have the students post on Padlet their answers to that, and I'll just show you what that looks like. Padlet's another wonderful online resource, and we've set one up for you all that we're actually going to use at the end of the presentation. And students would just click on this plus and start typing, and you'd see it start to populate. So that's a super cool, again, way of engaging right away. Icebreaker, share some good things, especially in these dark, anxiety-inducing times. Got to hold on to the things that give us joy. Let's see. The last one, I thought we could do this one together. Just how are you feeling today? And again, this is really simple. Let's go to the site here. I'm using Poll Everywhere for this. So this is we've already sort of tested this out. I think Sean typed in good and really great, and I sent grumpy. Not that I'm grumpy, it was just silly. But I'd love it if you would go ahead, and if you've got your cell phone, go ahead and send in one word to describe how you're feeling today. It's very simple. You just text to the number 37607.
Matthew,
and
you go ahead and just share that on the screen. Right now, we're still seeing the presentation, but we want to see your screen.
So sorry. See, I'm new at this. Okay, is that there?
That is perfect.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I wasn't sharing the screen accurately before, but yeah. So you can, if you've got a web browser, you can go to pollev.com/MatthewSpank787, or you can text to 37607. And you have to type in my sort of name first, Matthew SPENC 787, send it, and then you can type in a word to describe how you're feeling. And look, we're getting lots of stuff coming in. I see sleepy, fantastic. Several people saying good. This is one of these things where the word gets bigger the more people say it. Oh, nervous, amazing, hopeful, okay, alert. Yeah, this is great. A lot of people feeling sleepy right now. Amazing. Anyway, you can see this is really fun. Your students will love to do this. And if you're doing it in a synchronous way and you can show them your screen, this is really fun to do. But it doesn't have to be synchronous. You can make it an assignment and then look at it later on. Okay, I'm going to move on. Keep sending stuff in. But oh, and by the way, I think my account for that is only set up to take 50 or 100 responses, so you might not be able to get yours in, unfortunately. But so 3 icebreakers to immediately activate engagement and motivation in your students, and there are millions of them that you can use, and I highly recommend you check out the pamphlet that I was referring to, and the information again is on the last slide. And I believe Sean's going to make this PowerPoint available to everybody, so you'll be able to see that. All right, moving on. You are all educators. You think about motivation all the time. The topic here today is engagement and motivation, but I am not really going to spend a lot of time on this because I just want to sort of prime you vocabulary. Intrinsic versus extrinsic. The intrinsically motivated are going to be fine. It's those extrinsically motivated students that we want to try to capture using various strategies and techniques. How are they oriented to goals? How successful are they at using metacognition to self-assess and self-regulate? Online teaching can be really amazing, but it's very independent. It's very flexible. That's wonderful, but also very enables procrastination very, very easily. Like, I don't have to do this right now, especially if you're doing asynchronous stuff. Feelings of self-efficacy. So you're thinking about how can I harness my knowledge about motivation here to be successful in the online classroom. So moving right along, Um, Online learning is one thing. Online learning in spring of 2020 is a very unique situation, as all of you know. In addition to all the things that you would want to think about, you have to think about stress level, anxiety level. Many of your students are not prepared to get online and use some of this technology. They've had no training. They may not have access, right? There are equity issues. Not everybody has a device, or they have maybe one device for 5 siblings or whatever. You have to think about things like safety. Home might not be very safe right now. There's a lack of protocols for us teachers. If something weird happens, how do you respond? We haven't really been here before. So, these things are going to take precedence. So because of that, let's see, come on, slideshow. There we go. Because we're in this unique situation, as many of my colleagues and you all around the world have been saying over the last couple of weeks, this is a less is more situation. You'll want to have realistic expectations. Probably you're going to have far fewer assignments and stuff than you're used to. Video conferencing is awesome, is amazing, but I think for various reasons, mostly asynchronous stuff, that is stuff that we're not doing together at the exact same time, will work better for most of our students. And your top priority probably as educators right now is to make connections and show caring for our students, who are, many of them, struggling with anxiety, with worry, with fear, with even safety, and stuff like that. So less is more in this case. Oh, what just happened? Okay, technology. Let's see, next slide. Moving right along. So I'm going to talk about concrete strategies, things that you can do. First one is start with a survey. You're going to appeal to your audience, empower them to be shaping what you do online, appeal to those extrinsically motivated students who want connection, to connect with you or to connect with others. Ask them about their access to technology. Sometimes you can ask about their safety or their anxiety level, though you need to be a little bit careful when you ask those kinds of questions. You need to be ready for whatever you're going to hear. You're inviting, engaging student interest and their availability. Because not everybody's going to be available all the time. Some students are watching siblings, etc. Get student buy-in. This is a great way to start off your online experience, and you can repeat it from time to time. Okay, next up. I'm struggling to actually move to the next slide. Okay, got it. Number 2, parents. I mean, this is true in the actual classroom, and it's still true online. Some students, those intrinsically motivated students, are going to want to get online with you, but those who don't, maybe their parents really want them to. Reach out to your parents, send a parent email, maybe weekly, let them know what you're doing, suggest ways they can support. Obvious thing, but sometimes we forget to do that. Moving right along to number 3, community building. For those students who need to feel connected, who want that peer connection. They're not necessarily super interested in the content, but they're interested in connecting with each other. Have people introduce themselves online. So use the whole range of what the internet has to offer. Pictures, videos, memes, all of that stuff. Have people have fun introducing themselves online, and then have ongoing community building from time to time. You can use those good things, icebreakers and stuff like that, and various other things that you all imaginative people will come up with. But you want to keep that stuff going, community building. It's not all about content, especially for those extrinsically motivated students who are not super excited about your content. Get them excited in some other way. Moving on, number 4, once you've got stuff going, timely and enthusiastic responses. This is true in the classroom, and it's even more true online. You want when a student posts something, when a student turns something into the void, you just click submit, whatever. If you're on Google Classroom or something like that, they need your feedback. They need your specific and enthusiastic response in a timely way. Not that you need to be online 24/7 and replying immediately, but if you set up like a regular time, right? Assignments are due on this day or whatever, and then on this day every week, I'm going to be providing feedback so the students know when they can expect it. Try to use their personal names. You know, when you're writing stuff on paper, when I'm grading papers, I don't always do that, but I think you want, because of the distance here, you want to try to use any little thing you can to increase the sense of connection. So use their personal names. Try to use everybody's in a public way at some point if you can. 5, humor. Sean mentioned humor. Humor is really a weak thing for me, but use what you've got. Memes. My wife is sending me hilarious memes all the time. I'm sure you can bring those into your classroom. I saw this posted on the AP Literature Facebook group. What character would you want to be quarantined with? If you sort of adapt your homework in such ways, they're going to make people laugh, lighten the mood a little bit. Humor obviously creates engagement. Let's see, next slide. Number 6, early successes ensured. You want to, especially for the students who are not feeling super confident in the technology, you want to try to create some assignments early on that are very easy, they could feel successful at, and then maybe to allow them to explore whatever it is. I remember way back in the day when there was a website, it was, what was it called? Wikispaces or something like that. And they had this feature called the Sandbox, which was just a place where you played around with the technology. You can create an assignment like that, high success, let people fool around with it and get comfortable. Continuing on here, number 7. I think this one's really important. Where everybody's really into Zoom and video conferencing right now, very high tech, cutting edge. I think you want to try to have low tech side by side with the high tech. Part of this is an equity situation. Not everybody has the bandwidth or is able to synchronously join up with you in a video chat, or the devices or whatever. And partly it's just a comfort level. Not everybody's super comfortable with Zoom. I've struggled with it a little bit. There's a lot going on in these video conferencing applications. It's not for everyone. And I heard a story of a college professor doing a Zoom class the other day. He had muted everybody's mics and their videos, and he had also by mistake muted himself. He gave a long lecture that no one could hear and no one could communicate back to him. So sometimes we are just as lost with the technology as the students are. So, high tech, awesome, but you also want to put side by side with that some of the more older fashioned, a little bit lower tech. Discussion boards are still a fantastic way to create engagement, interaction, connection between students. It's asynchronous, so you don't have to have everybody logged in at the same time. So go for that stuff. Make sure you're using some of that simpler, older tech stuff alongside the high tech. For discussion boards, students love them. Once you get the ball rolling, have them posting and replying. Give them some choice. If you give a bunch of topics, you choose something you can post on. Make some requirements for the post, and then require them to reply to each other or offer feedback. And I think once you get that started, people get excited about that. A lot of people like to do the video lecture thing. I've been doing that. I sometimes feel like it makes me feel better than my students do, because I know I've gotten a lot conveyed. But if you're doing video lectures, what I've learned is that short and focused is the way to do it. I used to do, a 25-minute lecture, flip my classroom, 25-minute video lecture. And then I would look and see, oh, it's been played, I've got maybe 60 students who are supposed to watch it. It's been played 10 times. And that doesn't tell me, that they've actually finished it. So short and focused, you get higher engagement rates, 5 to 7 minutes. No need to be fancy. Maybe you want a kind of a hook to begin with, but if you're doing video lectures, I think that could be really great. But short and focused is the best way. Number 10. Oh, connect. There's so much interesting stuff going on in the world right now. You want to try to connect your content to current data, current news. What could be more exciting, farther away from that dusty old textbook, than to look at the stuff that's happening right now? I saw some students doing an analysis of Twitter hashtags, like from that day. Like pick a Twitter hashtag, look at all the different things that are being posted, and think about what kinds of posts people are making. Tons of data on COVID and coronavirus. You could do lots of interesting graphing and stuff like that with that. Respond if you're, maybe you're not that advanced, maybe it's a younger age, respond to a photograph or an article, but something cutting edge, something right now, really interesting, high engagement. Find some way to filter your content, your course content, through this current right now stuff that's happening. Along the same lines, connect to home, right? Filter your content through stuff that kids can find in their own homes. My niece had an assignment the other day to go collect different kinds of rocks from right outside where she lives for a science class in an elementary school. Household artifacts, objects, or qualities of your house or where you live, or an object that a character might connect with. You can ask students to find something and then connect it in some way to some course content. Can be really fun, and kids can be wildly creative with that. Let's see, going ahead. I hope I'm not going too fast, but I'm mindful of everybody's time. 12. I talked earlier about metacognition. Students who don't have good metacognition will struggle. So you can build in scaffolding for that. Have assignments where they set goals. Have part of your assignment be to think about what they know about something at the beginning of the assignment and then what they know about it at the end. So in this time when you've got to be doing that metacognitive work to stay engaged online, if you can build that into your assignments, sort of before and after questions, or if you're giving a lecture, make sure they are assigned to identify some important takeaways, something to help them stay aware of what they are doing. And get into that growth mindset that we talk about all the time in education. And speaking of a growth mindset, there are tons and tons of amazing, awesome programs and websites that give immediate feedback, and so facilitate that growth mindset. Read Theory, as you all know, does this beautifully. It's a wonderful tool. You get immediate feedback. You can see your growth. A wonderful thing. So you're going to want, of course, you want to keep using Read Theory. Google Classroom. If you set up some, Google poll or Google Forms quizzes and stuff like that, give immediate feedback. If you've got older students with cell phones, that application Remind is amazing. Or I showed you Padlet earlier, and we'll look at that a little bit later. We looked at Poll Everywhere. There are two other tools that I wanted to show you, and these are just sort of random tools that I've found looking around. To do education in a little bit different way now that students are at home, and this is a very student-driven, you're the facilitator rather than the leader. And one is called Voyant Tools, and the other is called Data Classroom. Let's see if I can get to it. Here we go. Voyant Tools, I'm going to share my screen for this so you can see what it looks like. There's a free source, free website for Englishy sorts of things. You can take a text, you can plug it in, and it will do all kinds of really cool analysis for you. So this is what it looks like. What I've done with this is I've inputted the text for President Kennedy's speech about going to the moon. A short speech. You can see it's got about 2,000 total words. And what it does is it breaks it down for you in ways that we don't ordinarily do when we read. The most frequent words in the speech: space, new, man, years, knowledge. It'll give you this word cloud of the most frequently used words. This feature over here, links, is super cool. What it will do is pull out some of the most frequently used words. You can see man, space, new, and then what it does is it shows you other words that frequently appear in close vicinity to that word. So when President Kennedy uses the word man, you could see often he's using it in close relation to the word years or learned
Matthew.
or use. And so here's an assignment. You can ask your students to put a text in here and run through Voyant analysis and think about, what do we learn about the relationship of the main ideas of the text from these little graphs and these little visualizations? Notice that when President Kennedy uses the word man, within 5 words, he repeatedly uses the word use or uses the word learned. That gives us, you can do some analysis of that. What does that imply about our President Kennedy's understanding of what mankind is? We are creatures that use things. We are creatures that learn things. Same thing with space. Notice this one's kind of interesting. Budget, effects, science. Anyway, you could do lots of cool stuff with that. And then the last thing I wanted to show you.
Hey, Matthew, can
yes.
you hear me real quick, Matthew?
Yes.
Hey, Matthew, we didn't get to see that amazing stuff you were just showing. Could you just real quick share your screen one more time with us so we all get to see Voyant Tools, just a quick glimpse of it?
I am so sorry. I feel like that professor who had all the mics on mute. But thank you, Sean. So, okay, let's see. I'll show it to you. Here it is. So this is what it looks like. Can you see this now?
I can see it now. Thank you.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm new to this, of course, as I think many of us are. So here's that little visualizing of word relationships that I was talking about. And when you zoom in on man, you can see these other words that it's connected to repeatedly in the speech. So the word use appears within 5 words of his use of the word man on repeated occasions. Again, the word learned. And then you can look at space. Clearly, he's thinking about the cost of space exploration with his use of the word budget, efforts, science, lots of just fascinating stuff you can do with this tool. And while I'm sharing the screen, I'm just going to go to the last thing I wanted to show you. If you're more, sciencey, this is another cool resource. This one you have to pay for, but not right now. As with many websites out there, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Data Classroom has made all of their stuff free for right now, and I believe for the foreseeable future until we're through this. Data Classroom is a way of crunching numbers, and it gives you a bunch of sort of preloaded data sets that you can play around with, or you can upload your own. So, for example, I just want to show you one preloaded data set. This is a bunch of data about finches that was collected over, I think, a 40-year period. And towards the end of that 40-year period, there was a drought, and 80% of the finches died. But we have all of this data about the finches, and you can see right here the fate of each one. Died. You can see their weight, their wing size, beak information, and stuff like that. And so lots of things you can do with this if you want students playing around with data and learning how to draw conclusions from it. I thought it was real cool that you can make all kinds of graphs. So I'm going to make a scatter plot here, and I'm going to select which things I want in here. So I want to see about their fate. I want to see about their weight, right? And now you see a scatter plot. And you can see, you could draw a conclusion from this. Those that lived, you could see, tended to be heavier birds. Does that tell us something about evolution and about natural selection? You can add a z-axis. If you add, I was playing around with this, the beak length to it. now you could see darker colors as beak length. And so those with a longer beak also tended to survive more than those with shorter beaks. So you can play around with this. You can have your students just play and discover and think about stuff and try to analyze what the data is showing them. And you can also have them collect data of their own and input it and crunch the numbers in similar ways. So for example, if you wanted to connect your course content to the house, the home where you're living, you could have students say, make observations about, and this is Sean's idea when we were talking earlier, make observations about how often people go to the refrigerator, just frequency over a time period, right? And then maybe think about what they pull out, and you're collecting various pieces of data, and then you can crunch the numbers in interesting ways and draw conclusions. So you can play around with this. And again, this is just, these are just two sites that you can use, and there are so many more things out there that are extremely interactive, that put the ball in the student's court, so the teacher facilitates more than leads, and the student is discovering and interacting with cool stuff and producing knowledge. And you all probably have tons of similar things out there that you can that you could share. So I want to just kind of wrap up here. I probably have gone a little over time. The last thing I want to say is about teacher motivation. We want to keep the students motivated, but we all need to be motivated too. This is an incredibly important thing that we're doing. We need to have a healthy mindset about the online shift. If you're like me and not super thrilled about leaving the face-to-face stuff and sort of anxious about it, this may filter into your students' motivation. So think about how important this is. We're reaching out to students who may really need something like this in their lives, and just giving them a little bit of normalcy, the ability to continue their education. Less is more, so don't get too worried about whether it's not super flashy and you're not super high tech. But stay motivated yourself. Keep on it. And I think if you can employ a lot of these strategies and many others that you'll read about, you should be able to find success. So what I would like to just to close, I could take questions. I know people have been posting stuff, and then we wanted to share this Padlet space for you all to post any additional insights that you have. You probably have lots of things to share that I didn't touch on, or maybe I insufficiently touched on. Anything that you would like to share that would be helpful to others. Let me just show you. Oh, I better go to screen sharing. Let me just show you what that site looks like. Oh, look, some people have already posted. But yeah, anything that you would like to share, go ahead and post up here, and this will be collected for future reference by you all. Okay, that's what I've got. I hope that was at least marginally helpful to people. Sean, are there questions, or how do you want to go?
So thank you. First off, thank you so much, Matthew. We are going to try to take some questions right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to do what Matthew was doing real quick here. And I'm going to try to share my screen so that we can all see that Padlet all at once here. All right. So it says, it looks like Matthew, all I did there was make it so I'm sharing your screen. Can you go ahead and
I can go back to
yeah. Can you navigate to the Padlet? And then folks, if you want, we would love it if you have questions. I've enabled comments on this Padlet as well. So if you ask a really great question, Matthew and I will try to answer it as best we can, but also feel free. We've got 450 fantastic, dedicated educators on the line right now that we can all be there for each other. So please use this space to just throw information at each other. I see already. Is there anyone else who works in a low socioeconomic area? And we've got 5, 6 comments already. So this is really just fantastic. And Padlet is wonderful for this sort of PLC community as well. So if you do have questions, we'll try to address them, but it looks like the experts in the room are kind of the teachers here right now.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
Is there anyone else who works in a low socioeconomic area? What are you finding are your main challenges is the question on the table right now. I work in a Title I elementary school as a 5th grade teacher. And for me, one of my main challenges is just contact. I've tried to maintain contact throughout the year, and then suddenly the numbers that always were a little hard to reach anyway have become impossible to reach. And so reaching out and finding support from other teachers, reaching out to my administration in order to make that contact has been my biggest area of challenge. Going down here, I'm just going to go ahead and look and see. I see some wonderful resources being shared, suggestions for dealing with kids who have no internet. That one is tricky. I'm not sure where you're coming from, anonymous person. I know that there are opportunities and resources out there. Some of the major cable companies in the United States have said that they will offer free Wi-Fi internet for students for the next 60 days who've been affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. And so that's something to reach out for. Devices is going to be a different issue, but internet, at least for the next 60 days, if you're in the United States, I can't speak to European or other resources, but that's a good one to have out there. I know Charter has committed to it, and I know that Time Warner or Spectrum has also committed to this.
If you're teaching high school and you teach AP students, I know the College Board got some system rolling to get devices and Wi-Fi to students who don't have it, because of course the College Board is going ahead with testing for this year. It's just another potential resource if you have AP students.
All right. Now I also, let's take a look. A lot of my students see school as their safe space and are seriously missing not having it. Does anyone have any thoughts on how we can help facilitate that remotely? So one of the things here is that Zoom is not enough, but that doesn't mean we don't like Zoom. So we're just trying to go beyond it. But I know I have, and I actually hear him in the other room calling for me. I have a 3-year-old who misses his preschool class, and I have a kindergartner who misses her preschool class or her kindergarten class. So finding times and ways to connect even small groups with that. They've both been on Zoom in the last week to chat with their classmates exclusively, facilitated with an adult, facilitated with a teacher, and that's been really positive for them. I know that's just something. I see that somebody suggested driving by their house and waving to them. I don't know that we can actually encourage that one, since a lot of us are supposed to be sheltering in place, but I like the enthusiasm from Anonymous there. I see some already such fantastic suggestions are just pouring in. Thank you so much. So if you have, let me just double see. If you have a new question, go ahead and post it to the Padlet right now. I'm also going to double check in the chat. I'm trying to monitor both right now for everybody. I also want to say one of the questions that I saw was they were asking about resources available when you don't have like a great digital tool to give for English or online resources. I do want to make a really full-throated plug for Read Theory. Read Theory automatically provides adaptive, individualized content for your students, regardless of their ability level. It's for 1st grade through 12th grade, or if you're international, fluent 6-year-old to fluent 18-year-old plus. The content adapts automatically to the student's ability level, and it provides immediate feedback where users and individuals get to know not only if they got a question right or wrong, but it gives a reason for if they made a mistake. It's an incredibly positive tool. It also has little achievement levels, and I know a lot of teachers have used it to set up classroom competitions, and so they're able to actually engage with their students in that way as another way of encouraging that community, encouraging that safe space. They can actually use Read Theory not just for the fantastic English comprehension tools that it provides, but also for that sense of community. Let's see. I'd like to set up pen pals. Oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful question.
A wonderful idea.
Love it, love it, love it. And I already see that there are just so many great comments coming in. Let me double check on the chat for those of you who are not looking at the Padlet right now. Let's see. So I see we've used Read Theory in our classroom before. My students are used to doing it and they love it. Thank you so much. Gotta leave, the sound is so choppy. How would you incorporate group work using technology? That's a good question. Matthew, do you have any immediate thoughts that spring to mind incorporating group work with technology there?
Well, I know that I think Zoom has got breakout rooms, right? I don't know a lot about that, but you can create teams and have students sort of do these little breakout rooms and then come back together for maybe small group discussion and then large group discussion. Obviously, Google Classroom and Google Docs is got lots. And you can have people working on a document together. If you just create, I would work on creating teams first, and then, maybe they're using a Google Doc together, or maybe they're using that data classroom. Maybe multiple people are collecting data on a particular question. I think teamwork can still be a powerful and cool thing to do, even at a distance. I don't know how helpful that was.
Yeah.
But.
No, that's great. I see already we've got additional questions and answers coming in. Microsoft Teams is great. Seesaw is great for younger students. Breakout rooms with Zoom just got a what shout out support comment there. So that's great. And let me just double check to make sure I haven't missed any wonderful questions. We see another pen pal request. Low bandwidth resources or suggestions for adult learners. I work with Read Theory every day, and it really does adapt for all technologies. All it requires is an internet connection, and it's not a huge data suck at all. So that's one that I know a lot of people can use. We have users all over the world in all sorts of scenarios. The entire country of Brunei just began using Read Theory in every school, and they do not have unlimited resources there. So, that's just, that's not trying to plug, but plugging a little.
Side by side with that, I love the sort of low tech discussion board. It is still highly engaging once you get it started. It doesn't take a lot of bandwidth. You could do stuff on Google Classroom in that way. That the video conferencing can be really challenging if you've got a bandwidth issue, as probably I do. But yeah. You want to have these low tech, lower tech, less bandwidth options side by side with the high tech, fancy stuff.
All right. I think if we're not getting any new questions posted up to the pad there, I'm going to go ahead and just thank everybody for coming out again today. We're going to post this to YouTube. It'll be part of our channel. And please, continue to post to the Padlet right now. It's not going down anytime soon. And we just are so grateful to you, Matthew, for preparing this and for presenting these resources. I think you did a good job of hitting resources at a variety of levels as well. And so really, thank you so much. Any last minute questions for Matthew? Last minute things? You got like 30 seconds. No? Okay. So check out also along with that YouTube on our Read Theory channel. We'll have the video, but we'll also have a link to the PowerPoint presentation if you weren't able to get it through this platform here. I want to thank everybody again for coming out today, and stay positive, stay safe, and keep doing what's best for your students, because that's why you're here. That's why we're all in this together. So thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you again.
Thank you.